Hey listeners, this is Gavin. Just a real quick note about this episode. The sound quality is maybe not up to our normal standard, but I did want to put a note out there. This was our second time trying to record this episode. There were a lot of issues. There's been a heat wave. Who knows what happened? But we really do appreciate you coming back every 2 weeks. Thank you so much for your support. This show is a real labor of love, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
Second time around, baby.
Oh, yeah, this is False Start Friday on a Monday.
Ra-ta-ta-ta. You know, this is what happens when we fall out of our rhythm and fall out of our, our good groove. But, you know, life happens. Life happens.
To quote Jeff Goldblum, life finds a way.
There you go. And podcasts work harder than the devil. And podcasters, well, we are the devil. Hi, everyone. This is Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject such as an actor, director, or a mini genre, and we take 2 weeks or sometimes a month. And we watch as much as we can, do as much research as possible, spit it all back out at you, and then we tell you what we like and what we don't like so much.
Has it been a month? Holy shit.
Yeah, it's been a month.
Sorry for making you guys wait, but, a little anticipation never hurt anybody, Yeah, we mix up the reviews, and sometimes we even bring friends. With that being said, we are not alone. The return of the Miss Wonderful Samantha Stallard. She's here.
Hey, guys. I was thrilled to have a month. I don't know about you.
We do try and give our guests as much time as possible, but you got as much time as possible.
Yeah.
Truly.
We said we're gonna need to push that back a week, and you said fine. And I was like, we're gonna need to push it back another week. Yeah, great. But yeah, Samantha, this is Samantha's return. Only the second guest to return after the glorious Dan Mecca. We are so lucky and glad to have you here, bebe. Before we get started to talk about why Sam has gathered us here today, let's take care of some old business. Our last episode, we talked about John Waters. We told you guys to go online and vote for your favorite John Waters film. Here are the results. In last place was Pink Flamingos with 13%. Female Trouble came in next at 16%. Hairspray came in second place with 25%. And both me and Gavin's picks, Serial Mom, came out on top with 46%. Strong showing for Serial Mom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's mostly because, I think Serial Mom's the crowd pleaser, as I said at the last time we tried recording this. And I really do genuinely think it's the one that, for some reason is the most mainstream, even though it is gross and wacky. But I was a little shocked for how few turnouts there were for Pink Flamingos, but maybe our audience just isn't that gross.
Yeah, maybe. We had a couple of shout outs for Polyester. I think one for Pecker. Sam, what's your favorite John Waters?
I'm so basic. I grew up on Crybaby on VH1.
Yes, of course.
And then I dabbled in Hairspray, and it was off to the races from there. But I do agree that Serial Mom, and I actually learned listening to that episode that was John Waters. I just truly never thought about it. So.
Right. You were just like, the 90s were weird.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, were the 90s kooky? I feel like we're going to talk about that a lot today, but.
Yeah.
You're like, who directed this nasty little piece of work?
We also have a couple of reviews we wanted to share with you guys really quickly. So Gavin, why don't you go first?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned before, I would really like us to try and get to 100 Apple Podcast reviews by the end of 2022. We're currently sitting at a lovely 79, which means we've gotten more reviews. But that, I would like to get a little further, But as we do say at the end of every episode, if you do leave us an Apple Podcast review, we'll read it on the show. And our first one comes all the way from Australia. The title is First Time, and it says, first time listening to the podcast, and guys, thank you. Your chemistry is amazing, and I love the way you guys talk about actors/actresses and movies. I was at the gym listening to you guys, and the time went by so quick, thanks to you. And I hate the gym.
Yes, girl, queen. Yes.
That's from Luis the Third, and Luis, agree.
Yeah, hard saying, girly. Do not like the gym. Okay, I got this next one. Love these girlies. The Barbara episode drew me in, but the research, the attention, the humor, and the fun made a fan. Gavin and Louie make a great team, and each episode feels like sitting around listening to good friends talk about film. I love what you guys do, and I don't think there's been an episode that didn't leave me wanting at least one movie I've never seen before. I now want to see. Thanks for being a light in dark times. Oh, thank you so much, Bradley GC. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone. Please, yes, write in a nice little thing for us. We deeply appreciate it, and we love, being silly billies for you, and when you're at the gym or driving in traffic or whatever. But okay, now on to why we're here. Sam, why don't you tell the children, what you... Sam does this a lot, because me and Sam hang out all the time, and she'll just every casually once in a while be like, so I have an idea.
I do consider myself the PR representation of mixed reviews.
Correct.
And
you do great work.
Yeah,
I can't complain.
Great. I'm glad my clients are happy. But I will text Louie just a random idea I have. And I've had several that have made it and a couple that haven't. So I'll be checking up on those.
Yeah. The Disney Channel Original Movies episode.
Yeah.
Circling back
for my last text message. Yeah. But I texted him out of the blue and was just like, it's got to be Brendan Fraser. And I have learned it's Fraser. So I'm really going to practice saying that.
Yes.
Okay. So everyone right up front, we're letting everyone know it's Fraser, not Fraser.
Fraser. I remember years ago, I think it was in one of their commercials, but it was like a Daily Show commercial where he was being interviewed and he was like, it's not Frasier.
Yeah.
It's Fraser.
The I is missing. There was no Frasier, like the show. It's Fraser, ER.
Really like laser.
Yes. And so, Sam, what made you think of Brendan and how did you become a fan of his?
I definitely became a fan of his. I mean, I think if I could define my childhood, it would be just cable. And so we already talked about VH1, but Brendan was a heavy hitter on TBS. Let me tell you. They put him in heavy rotation on there. And so I remember seeing Encino Man and George of the Jungle when I was little and just being like, he is fine.
Yeah. You said body like wow.
Body like wow. And then I slowly realized that we owned many Brendan Fraser DVDs at home. And I was like, so my mom was like, body like, wow.
The Stallard family was hooked.
We were horny for Fraser. Okay. So yeah. And then I've obviously have TikTok because I'm in my 30s.
Yeah.
My algorithm knew. They said she wants to see the Renaissance content.
Yes.
So
and it's
I've
upon
seen
us.
all the videos of him at the signings being adorable and sweet and so sensitive, our little emotional boy. And I realized that while I had my tried and true favorites, I had not even scratched the surface. So I thought it would be fun to see what I missed along the years. And a lot of it could have stayed missing, but here we
The reviews were mixed.
Is that a read?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because, I mean, not to be those guys, but yes, he is very hot. And I think for a lot of people our age, we saw him in George of the Jungle where he wore nothing but a butt flap and a prayer and lots of oil. And he definitely gives good himbo energy. He makes good himbo. He does good himbo. But I similarly was surprised to find first of all, he has a lot more movies than I thought he did. And I didn't get to all of them. I got to as many as I could, but I was like, he has a lot more dramatic roles than I thought. And possibly because they just weren't as poppin' as The Mummy and things of that ilk.
Right.
But yes, there's a lot there. He's not just a hot bod, Sam. Okay, so please respect that.
Sorry.
But I have seen interviews, even recent interviews, where he has said, for a certain number of moms, and
Yes.
Babysitters.
Yes.
George of the Jungle was it.
Mm-hmm.
And now he has a certain number of female fans
Yes.
who were being babysat.
Okay.
And George of the Jungle is it for them too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like he gets it. He knows.
He knows. Very good. Well, so Gavin, I guess we should get into this rewind and find out a little bit more about the man behind the bod.
I was going to say the loincloth, but the bod works.
I was going to say the oil, so.
Brendan James Fraser was born December 3rd, 1968. That makes him a cool 53 years old. So he's still quite young.
Mm-hmm.
And a Sagittarius.
Ooh, I know nothing about...
This is why we bring Sam on the show. Our tarot girly.
I know nothing about astrology, and I like to post the memes every now and then because they make me laugh, but I don't feel connected to it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But I feel like if I tell you now that I'm a Capricorn, you're gonna be like, that makes sense.
Such a Capricorn thing to say.
You set it up and Sam knocks it down.
Fraser, the youngest of four boys, was born in Indianapolis, Indiana. His parents are Canadian, Carol May and Peter Fraser. His mother was a sales counselor and his father was a former journalist who worked as a Canadian Foreign Service officer for the Government Office of Tourism. As I mentioned before, three older brothers, Kevin, Regan, Sean, very like Irish, Scottish, German, Czech, French-Canadian ancestry. He is white.
The whitest of whites.
The whitest of whites. He does hold both American and Canadian dual citizenship. I do think it's funny that Canada really claims him a lot, even though he was not born there. But he is maybe the most Canadian person we've covered on this show. Like, in temperament.
Yes.
Like, friendliness.
For sure.
Like, yeah,
That
very...
we do right.
Yeah, absolutely. Fraser's family moved often during his childhood. They lived in Eureka, California, Seattle, Washington, Ottawa, Ontario, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. Because his father was working for the Board of Tourism, he has said that oftentimes he would move every other school year.
Wow.
That's not super helpful when you're like trying to build
Right.
bonds, friendships. Yeah, I could see that being hard for a young Brendan.
For anybody.
But he was hot.
Yeah, good thing. It'd be terrible if he had to move schools every 2 years and he was Quasimodo.
Right.
I can say that because I'm a descendant of Quasimodo. Thank you.
Thank you. That's my sister.
He attended Upper Canada College, which was a private boarding school in Toronto for a time. And then while on vacation in London, he attended his first professional theater show in the West End. And that he was like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's it. That's what I want to do.
It was a performance of Cats, and he said, "Hold on, now hold on."
You say that, but you know, he does talk about how like when he was in college, which we're getting to, he used to watch like acting tapes of Ian McKellen and whatnot. And Ian McKellen's in the Cats movies, so
Wow. And
1 degree of Ian McKellen, and then obviously they're both in Gods and Monsters. But,
yeah.
You know, he graduated from Seattle's Cornish College of Arts in 1990, and he began acting at a small acting college in New York City. And he was planning on getting his MFA, his Master of Fine Arts in Acting, from Southern Methodist University. But on his way there, he decided to stop over and visit some friends in Hollywood,
Right.
sleep on some floors.
He took the long way. He took the long way.
You know, New York, California,
Texas.
Yeah, all the same. It's
Right.
really
Right.
They often say America is one nation divided by a common language. And yeah, so he like stops over in Hollywood and it's pilot season. And he's like,
How annoying to just like land in Hollywood and then just get your big
Right.
break.
Imagine.
To
What a world.
Every actor in the world.
What a world.
Like,
I came down to Los Angeles. I had a scholarship to study at a graduate level. I figured, you know, it didn't start till the next semester. I'll stop and I'll try and get some of these student loans paid off with one of these pilot things or do a commercial or something, and pass through Los Angeles, logistically speaking. And so I auditioned, I didn't get the part. They moved on. I think they changed directors. I think I went off. I did get a pilot that never saw the light of day. But the check didn't bounce, I'll tell you that. And I needed the dough at the time.
So he goes in, he starts trying to land roles, and he actually ends up landing his first film. So in 1991, he makes his acting debut in a film as a sailor headed to Vietnam in the film Dogfight. Now, I did not watch this, even though he references it quite a lot in his interviews, because he literally plays Sailor One. He doesn't even have a character name. I would like to see this movie at some point, but I didn't feel it was essential for this. Did either of you stop by Dogfight?
I did not.
I didn't. And then I was like, I really want to see the scene he's in. But then I got too scared to Google Dogfight. So
right.
just let it be.
Smart.
Then he lands his first leading role in the 1992 comedy film Encino Man. He plays a frozen prehistoric caveman who is thought out in present day.
What a pitch. What a concept.
Well, what's really funny about this is School Ties was shot first, but he's like literally doing these two films like back to back.
Actually, we shot School Ties before I did Encino Man. At the time I was testing for School Ties, one phone call that came through my agent's office was, listen, we hear he's testing for School Ties. Tell him we'll offer him the part of the caveman if he doesn't. But I knew where my priorities lay, and I wanted to do School Ties a great deal.
School Ties is a drama in which he plays a Jewish boy who goes to a private boarding school, which is very anti-Semitic. It's a lot of the early, like, it's Matt Damon, it's young Ben Affleck, it's Chris O'Donnell. It's funny that he would start off with both of these like polar opposite films. I watched both for this. I've seen both before, but neither of them since childhood. What were your guys' opinions of these two diametrically opposed films?
I think Encino Man holds up. I'm sorry. It's so fun.
Yeah. Tubular.
I am nodding along because, I was shocked that I was like, Encino Man is so much fun, especially the Pauly Shore of it all, which is shocking.
I know.
Pauly Shore is funny. I
think being removed from like that culture and like, I mean, because back then and like a very specific, 92, like where the Valley was funny and making fun of the Valley was funny and Pauly Shore was everywhere. I'm sure like the overload of it became annoying, but like now, like no one, watching it now, removed from all that, it's like the choices Pauly Shore was making as a comedian, as a performer are so specific and they're fucking funny and they're good. I like Encino Man a lot.
I don't know if this is true, but I read that Brendan beat Jim Carrey for the role and that his audition was him just like interacting with a plant and the audition room and
gag.
I mean, he says maybe 10 words the whole movie.
Ran around and I thought, awesome, there's no lines in this movie. Jeez, I knew a dog who acted like this once. Wait, I think I always... No, wait, that's me. Never mind. And they hired me. Actually, they came to me and said, no, you got to do this, really. We can't find anybody else. And I said, that's very flattering, I think.
And what's even funnier, too, is so that was initially offered to Pauly Shore. And Pauly Shore turned it down because there was no dialogue for him. And he's like, no, I won't get to do the buddy.
Yeah. On the flip of that, School Ties to me is kind of that very, I mean, and I think maybe it's because of the time, but I feel like Brendan Fraser was in a lot of these movies where it's like very much like patting yourself on the back type movie where it's like, isn't this like a bad thing? But like in the end, there's no really like comeuppance. There's no like, it's just like, yes, it is bad. And you have to be good sometimes. Like I didn't dislike it, but because we're so removed from the egregiousness of it, like it's very much like, what are you doing here? Praying?
Right.
It's like literally of all the things this guy could be fucking doing. And he's just chilling and literally being tall, gorgeous, perfect football player. I do like him fighting with Matt Damon. I think that's fun.
School Ties is tough because School Ties is so heavy-handed. I mean, it was written by Emmy Award winner Dick Wolf of Law and Order fame.
Right.
Yes. And like based off of his time at college or high school or one of the two, but like it has roots in reality, but it's so Hollywood formulaic.
Yes.
And honestly, there's a bunch of these kind of in Brendan Fraser's career.
Yes.
And they're a little turn offish, I'll be perfectly honest.
Well, it's like this, it's funny like to look at both of these, because throughout his career, like if you said like, oh, what's the earliest memory you have of Brendan Fraser, you would say Encino Man or something to that, like you would think of something lighthearted and funny where he's pulling faces, which he does so well in Encino Man. You won't say School Ties. And what's wild is going through this, you know, his career journey, we're going to find a lot more dramatic movies where it's like, oh, what the like he's just not known as a dramatic actor, and yet for some reason he and Hollywood were like, we're going to keep fucking trying this until it sticks. Even though it's just so clear that he's so much more well suited at being a comedic actor.
But in both movies, and we will find this as we go through them all, he both dances and takes his shirt off. And that became like a drinking game to me. I feel like, okay, when's he gonna take his shirt off and when's he gonna dance?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Down the line, baby.
In 1984, he plays Steve Nebraska in The Scout.
Forgot about this movie, but yes, I watched this. Yes,
I actually watched this too, and
it's a big fucking year for him. But I just wanted to make a pit stop at The Scout because The Scout is maybe the least carefully written movie I've seen in a really long time, because it deals with really, really heavy themes and plays them all for laughs.
Yes.
I could not believe the ending of this movie. I could not believe
it was over.
I really thought we were gonna get some dramatic. So The Scout is about, he's a baseball player who's like run away from his daddy issues in Mexico. Long story short, and
he's run away from his daddy issues. His daddy issues are abuse so severe that he has blocked them out of his brain.
Correct.
Which we just spend 90 minutes glossing over.
And then when they find you think you're gonna like come and he's who plays his therapist?
Oh, his therapist, Diane Weiss.
Oh, Diane
is his therapist.
And you think you're gonna get these really great scenes of him like having catharsis, working through this trauma. Literally nothing. This movie is so uninterested in this guy's healing or like anything.
You see him in one therapy session, and that's it. And it's the first one where he's uncomfortable and unwilling to talk about anything.
So you're from Mexico?
Oh no, I'm not from Mexico. I was just down there for a couple of years.
Oh, I see. And why Mexico?
Because it's where I went.
Mm-hmm. You don't remember exactly what brought you down there?
Well, Well, baseball brought you down there, didn't it? Baseball brought me down there.
This movie's just so half-baked because...
Yes.
And then I was trying to give it... Okay, I was like trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I was like, maybe the audience is meant to have the perspective of Albert Brooks's character, where he doesn't see what's going on behind a closed door with the therapist. And then I was like, but that's not a movie.
Right.
Like...
Right. And that's truly like my favorite bit is after he does the first therapy session and it's so uncomfortable. Diane Weiss explains to Albert Brooks, who is the Scout, by the way. Albert Brooks is the star of the movie, question mark. And she's like, he has these daddy issues that are so severe that if he starts to see you as a father figure,
he might kill you.
You could be in danger. And so even at the end, when this big confrontation happens between them, you're like thinking, oh, this is going to get dark. No. Literally useless information. Diane Weiss could have not been in the movie, and you wouldn't have missed her based on the movie we got.
Right. And the fact that because the whole tension is like he has to go through a psychological evaluation before he can play. And she immediately signs this paper saying, yes, he can play. And so it's like, what is the tension in this movie? They resolved it 30 minutes in. Like, I don't understand.
I want to bring up the other two films that he does in the same year, which, by the way, bonkers that, you know.
He was booked and blessed.
Oh, absolutely. He plays Monty Kessler in With Honors, and then also co-stars with Adam Sandler and Steve Buscemi in Airheads. It's funny to like look at these three films. I guess not The Scout. I think The Scout is forgettable and time has sort of forgotten The Scout. But you look at With Honors and you look at Airheads And those were also both sort of staples of my childhood. I think because my sister really wanted to go to Harvard. She didn't. Spoiler alert. We did not have money. But like with Honors and Airheads, I had seen so many times as a kid.
Really? I mean, this is, again, another classic thing. Like, if you're going to think of like the one movie that he made in 1994, no one's fucking singing with Honors. Everyone, I mean, for me, I remember Airheads. I was like, what the fuck is this movie with Joe Pesci and like McDreamy? Like, and I texted Sam. I was like, this is the fucking most white savior bullshit movie of like, and now I'm a good person. And now I'm not a Republican.
Right.
On the flip of that, we have Airheads, which thank God. And again, it's just like, and he's going back to his Southern California, you know, the formula is there. And like literally
that lace front just hanging on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, honey, have you ever heard of Rock and Roll?
The movie that made me say, wait, am I attracted to Adam Sandberg?
Yeah. Adam Sandler in it looks really good. I will say, funny enough, so he's like barely wearing a shirt at any point in this movie. And constant reminder that he has chest hair. And then the one scene he gets naked, he is completely shaved. And I was like, what is happening here?
They said, get the knives out. Yeah. I like Airheads. It's fun. It's silly. It is jarring though to see a movie where it's like LOL fake guns. Like that used to be a thing. That used to be like kind of the gag. And like now it's like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Right. I do think that he was very funny in this movie. And I loved when he was walking through his tattoos. And he was like, barbed wire, gecko.
It's an interesting plot. So Airheads, by the way, this is a rock band who accidentally take a radio station hostage. And the funny thing is they're all idiots. Like, I mean, literally Airheads. And one of the things I like about the movie is it stays true to that even though Brendan Fraser does have a point about being true and authentic to yourself and being like, he's still a dummy. He's like, the movie never is like, and then they were smart. No, he's a dummy.
They still go to jail.
Yeah.
Right. They go to jail. They don't get away with it. I mean, the thing that like makes them, they're true to the music. They're true to like, you know, wanting a chance, because they're not even like, he's like, can you just please listen to the record? It's not even about like I demanding a contract. It's like, I just need to somehow get someone to listen to this that we worked really hard on.
Hey guys, we're all rock and rollers here.
You look like half a butt puppet. Do you know what it's like to be on the bill and to play for 15 minutes and the only people there to see you are the other bands and their girlfriends? Don't talk to me about rock and roll. I'm out there in the clubs and on the streets and I'm living it. I am rock and roll.
Also, his girlfriend from Airheads is the same actress who plays his girlfriend in School Ties.
And she's the lead from Crybaby. And I'm not going to get into it in this, but she ends up having a crazy tragic life. But we'll talk about that later. That's not for the podcast.
Okay.
No,
What's the teaser?
I'm just saying, if you want to know more, Google Amy Locane, because like I'm with John Waters, free Amy Locane.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay.
It's so funny. Like, it was one of those movies that was on Comedy Central all the time as a kid. What's also really funny about all three of these movies is they're box office bombs. They're terrible. None of them do well. And even though like I feel like people remember, especially Airheads, but like to a lesser extent with Honors, like these are not movies that people went to see in the theater. And so he follows that up with like a cameo in the movie Now and Then in 1995. He does this impressionistic horror movie called The Passion of Darkly Noon. And he does a TV movie called Twilight of the Golds in 1997. I don't know if either of you watched Passion of Darkly Noon.
Oh, yeah.
Sure did.
First of all, Ashley Judd, innocent.
Please. Ashley Judd.
Yeah.
Of all crimes.
Everyone's trying to burn the witch.
Yes.
Ashley Judd and some actor I've never seen before nor seen since discover Brendan Fraser wandering through the woods. It turns out that he has just escaped a cult that murdered his parents. And they like Ashley Judd and her mute boyfriend, played by Viggo Mortensen, build coffins which they sell to eccentric preachers, and essentially Brendan Fraser like is jealous of Viggo Mortensen, wants to get with Ashley Judd experiencing some religious trauma, starts seeing his dead parents, paints himself red, covers himself in barbed wire.
The last 15 minutes of that movie are something
that
else.
entire movie, I was like, this is Sleep No More level. Like,
Really?
the lighting of the movie is fucking insane. Like, I was like, is this like a biblical fairy tale like on acid? But it's also like very animalistic. The way it's shot just feels very like primal.
Ashley Judd is doing great though. I will say.
Because Ashley Judd, I mean, and not that I'm not claiming to understand any of the fucking movie, but if from what I did gather, Ashley Judd is supposed to be like this temptation, right? She's like this woman who's perhaps a little wily. She's allegedly a witch, who like whatever.
Aren't we all?
I mean, if you're a woman, you're a witch. But like there's a whole fucking scene where he's just like jerking off to her from a distance. I was like, oh my god.
True. This is also a movie where you do see his balls from the back.
Yes, you do.
You do see it.
We can confirm there are balls from the back.
There are balls from the back.
There are balls from the back. Thank you. We have confirmed.
Just in case you guys think that we don't watch these movies carefully or analytically.
Yes, with thought and care.
We get in there.
But asking Ashley Judd to be like a temptress and sexy like is like fucking asking water to be wet. Like she's so good at just like being like, and she has great chemistry with him. He has like the chemistry is like poppin', but like this movie to me, I was like, what fucking Bushwick like thesis short am I watching? Like I didn't get it. Wasn't for me. Like I don't know.
Darkly Noon, what's that?
Me.
What's your name? It's a peculiar name, isn't it?
My mom and Pop chose it. They stuck a pin in the Bible. And it struck the word darkly. You know the passage from 2 Corinthians 13:12. For now we see each other through a glass darkly.
It's a primitive way to choose a name, isn't it?
It's the way we choose our names.
Truly, by the end, I did not care what happened to any of them anymore.
No.
But again, hot as always. And the chemistry with Ashley Judd was crazy. But he blows my mind about how he has chemistry with like everyone.
I will say this. He is a chemistry machine. And it's a little shocking because you don't often think of somebody that's like that polite and that sort of like demurely shy, but the thing is like when he acts, he's not those things. He doesn't like fade into the background, where like you look at a lot of interviews now, he could easily do that.
I think he's got like that mystery though, like you don't know, and I think that's why like when we get to it, and he has these roles where he's like bare chested and it's like, oh my god, he's got all that going on under there, but like he doesn't ever come off as overtly sexual. I never like feel like, oh, he's being a creep or like sexy like on purpose. It just kind of is. And so and it's probably because he disarms us all, like in George the Jungle, like he's just like a silly puppy boy, like like it never feels like a man using his sexuality for gain or whatever. Because even in this, where he like looks great, but like he's fucking covered in paint and like there's barbed wire. He's using his sexuality in a very specific, weird, kooky, mysterious way that makes it more alluring.
I do want to mention, by the way, too, and just because we passed it 1 year back, and because our last episode was about John Waters, in 1996, he does do Mrs. Winterbourne with Ricki Lake. Speaking of Chemistry Factory, I think, in last week's episode, we talked about how John Waters is like Ricki Lake is a star. She's like a good actor. I think Mrs. Winterbourne proves him wrong a little bit because I don't think she's quite good in the movie, but I think she's surrounded by good performances. I think both Brendan Fraser and Shirley MacLaine are very good in the movie. It's a very silly Billy. It's a dark plot, but it's very silly Billy.
I've never seen a train accident glossed over in such a manner. Like, first of all, the movie is about this young woman who is 18 the whole time. I hope not. Who leaves her father on Long Island, goes to the big city, meets some fucking scumbag. He gets her pregnant. She like runs away to Boston, gets on a train, and meets Brendan Fraser's first character and his pregnant wife. And then
they're nice and lovely.
And then all of a sudden the train just starts spinning. And at least for me, I was like, what? And then you find out there's this massive train accident and that the lovely couple she just interacted with are dead.
Yes, everybody is dead.
Everybody is dead. And at that point, I had never seen this movie before. So I was like, I swear to God, if this is his singular scene in this movie, I am not finishing it. And the fact that he got top billing for this makes no sense to me. But no, surprise, he's his own twin. And
yes. And well, she wakes up in a hospital and there's confusion. They think that she is the fiance. They think that she is the fiance of the woman who died.
There's 2 dead pregnant women, so we can't identify them.
Yeah, we don't know what DNA is.
Right.
Right. And so she gets swept up, taken to the Shirley MacLaine, the mother's house, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe everyone died except for you and this baby. Love you so much."
Nice. You gave us a baby named Cookie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then Brendan Fraser's twin comes out and he's like the biggest wet drip of a man who's just like, "Mother, I hate people."
I will say this. I think he's very good at both because like you said, like he's this drip, he's like all business and he's very droll and he doesn't like anything. And then the other Brendan Fraser with the slightly longer hair and the glasses is like hippy dippy and just befriends pregnant women on trains and like invites them back to his cabin, which by the way feels more sinister than it ends up being.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think the scene in which Brendan Fraser number 2 kisses Ricky Lake for the first time.
Oh, the tango.
Yeah, it's so...
I rewound it.
It's so cute, and it's so well played. Cute. And when he won't, like, leave the house, like, he keeps, like, he's like, "That's not the way out." And, like, keeps...
"I don't live here.
I don't live here." His line delivery of "I don't live here" is so good.
I don't really know what's going on here, but I feel good. So good night. Good night. I just remembered, I don't live here. I live somewhere else.
I don't think people think about this being his first box office success, but in 1997, he's in George of the Jungle, which we've brought up many times already. It's based off of the animated series created by Jay Ward. You know, it's very Rocky and Bullwinkle. It's very, you know, the concept is, what if Tarzan was an idiot? And yeah, it's cute. I had never seen it before, I'll be honest. This is one of the ones that I didn't grow up with because, you know, it's 97, so that would make me like close to like 13, 14, and I was probably like, ugh, baby movie. At the
I
time.
can't believe that you had never seen this, Gavin. Ever?
Never seen it before. No.
How did you know that you were queer then?
I had the showered scene in the school one.
Right.
The Cruel Intentions?
No, but also yeah.
Me and Sam saw this together, a rewatch for both of us, because obviously...
Okay, I was going to say, how long have you and Sam known each other?
No, we ordered Popeyes.
We got together and watched George of the Jungle.
Yeah. And I think I had forgotten how, like, raucous this movie is and how much it doesn't care about, like, rules of film or anything. Like, literally, he gets shot point blank in the face, and the narrator's like, now, everyone calm down. George is fine. Like, it's he mails himself via UPS or FedEx back to the jungle. For some reason, has a pair of, like, Nike trainers and runs all the way back to... He runs back to his fucking friend who is a talking gorilla. Like, this movie is fully insane. I think also me and Sam were remembering incorrectly that we spend a lot more time in like the big city. We don't. He's there for but a moment.
But again, the chemistry with him and Leslie Mann, oh my God. It's insane.
Watch out for that tree.
Watch out for that tree.
Have you ever seen the interview she gave? I think it was for Watch What Happens Live, where she admitted that like when she started that movie, Leslie Mann, she had a crush on Brendan Fraser because he was so pretty, but by the end of the movie she was in love with him. And she for years had convinced herself, she was like, I'm in love with this man.
Wow.
I fully understand.
Girl, I'm with you.
His real wife is one of the women that stands by the fence and watches him run with the horse.
Oh, yeah.
That scene.
Awakening.
Like, as a kid, I got it. And as an adult, I fucking get it.
Like literally, it's just him in this like beautiful, like open, big, billowy shirt. And he's like running around with these horses. And like, we are all those women just like watching, like,
swooning. Yeah. It's really fun. It's one of those movies where it's just like, who cares?
Well, I mean, it's a cartoon.
Exactly.
So like,
that's his strength though, because he kind of has the face for being cartoonish. His eyes are a little bit big. He's got an enormous face that he's just really good at like pulling, making all these wacky things. Seeing him kind of swinging on those plastic fucking vines, like it looks so shitty and cheap, but he sells every single bit, every single moment. It's so good.
And I think this is also his first foray into like really physical comedy and like more action adventure type roles. Because Homeboy is ripped as hell. I don't know what he was eating. Like, what was he even allowed to consume?
Half a can of tuna fish and a slice of apple, I'm guessing. I guess this is the point where I would want to float this theory. We've talked about this many times on this show before, sometimes with classic actors, sometimes with more modern actors. Is Brendan Fraser a case where he's a leading man looks with like the mind of a character actor? And I gotta say yes, because I think that they cast him a lot as a leading man. I don't know if it's his strength, I will say.
Same.
And like, so like you watch something like School Ties and you're like, when I was watching School Ties, and maybe it's because we did that Andrew McCarthy episode not too long ago, I was like, this could be any one of the other guys in the movie. I was like, this could be Chris O'Donnell. Like, this doesn't have to be Brendan Fraser. But like the George of the Jungles of the world, like the cartooniness that he brings to these, that energy, I think that's like sort of unrepeatable by a lot of like you couldn't make, like, Matt Damon would be a terrible George of the Jungle.
Like, absolutely.
And
that's his superpower though. Like, he's so free, like he's kind of like very open. And to be frank, like even though he's very handsome, he's very unique looking. Like, he has a distinct face, a distinct voice. And maybe it's because he really didn't have any connections to Hollywood. I mean, I don't fucking know. But it just, when you put him, like you said, I thought the same thing about School Ties. I was like, literally, this could be any young white hot.
Yeah.
Like, he is a cartoon character.
And he's just so willing to go for it. Like, he just seems like the type of person who's impossible to feel embarrassment, because the things that he does are humiliating to watch at some point. Like all of Bedazzled, we'll get there, but there's no ego with him at all, and it's so refreshing to watch someone just totally go for it like that. He
knows he's fucking hot, but like he's not gonna let that get in the way of like doing the bit. And I think he really always needs a bit to like succeed and like land it, because when in these dramatic roles like with honors or whatever, it's just like, oh, he's just kind of like being a guy, like whatever. But even when we get to something like Blast from the Past, he is the leading man, but like there is a bit to be had there. He is an outsider, and it's like I think that's where he really thrives.
It's funny that you mentioned that he like gives his all to it, because it's going to cost him, and we're going to get there. But I do just want to lay the groundwork for that. Like you mentioned, George of the Jungle is really his first big physical thing. he's doing a lot of that stuff for real. He's swinging on a lot of those vines. He's hitting a lot of those trees because he likes to do a lot of the stunts himself. And it does catch up with him. But because you mentioned his unique looks, I do want to get to his next movie, which is 1998's Gods and Monsters. He also does a kind of rom-com called Still Breathing in 1998, which I watched.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, that movie's stupid, but I feel like I could watch that movie on mute and love every second of
it. he does look very good at it. I will give
so good.
I will give you that.
Movie is so hot.
That's a regular little San Antonioan.
Yeah.
He's just a little hot puppeteer in San Antonio trying to live his life
in front of the Alamo.
I should tell you, I have a devious plan.
Are you going to try to seduce me?
In an ultimate kind of way.
Oh
my. Are you shocked?
No.
It's so hot. Such a hot movie. Just like I said, watch it on mute. You'll love it.
But 1998 brings us Gods and Monsters. Gods and Monsters is a biopic of James Whale, the man that directed Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and a plethora of other basically changed film history, created the panning shot essentially. But it's about the later part of his life after he had suffered from some debilitating strokes that had left his mind a little cluttered, and he forms this friendship with who in real life was fictional, but a gardener who was played by Brendan Fraser, who is this straight man who there's a chemistry between them, but also it's not really sexual. And I love this movie. I think this is the best thing Bill Condon has ever done. I don't know if either of you saw it.
I saw it today.
But it's funny because that you mentioned his weird looks. He's clearly cast because, especially with the hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
He looks like Frankenstein's monster. He looks like Boris Karloff in the makeup.
It's wild. I mean, we've talked about Frankenstein on the pod before because we've talked about Boris Karloff, and Gavin, I know you're obsessed with horror, and there he is.
There he is, right by me.
So you probably. I had never seen this movie, don't know a lot about James Whale, and but fucking Ian McKellen is one of our greatest living actors. May he be with us as long as he possibly can. And he's just so delicious in this movie. And I was just thinking oh my God, Brendan looks exactly like fucking Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster. It's crazy. And then the movie has those flashes of him in the fucking big oversized thing, and the lighting is the black and white, and I was like, God, this is just so stylish, and the point of view is so cool, but it's also kill me daddy please, maybe ooh.
Yeah, a bit. I mean, James Whale's fascinating because he was an out gay man in a time in which it was illegal to be gay, and you do find that a lot in history. People don't talk about that a ton. Oscar Wilde wasn't exactly in the closet, but but it is an interesting thing to be he never truly hid it. There's that great scene where the reporter comes, who is an actor I really like as well too, and he's there's no, it's not controversial, it's just the truth.
Yeah, he's just so good in that movie, and I think this is a very weird comparison to make, but I was thinking this is giving me very Meryl opposite of Anne Hathaway in Devil Wears Prada, where Anne is holding her own, and I think Brendan's holding his own here as well. But it's just the Ian McKellen show.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say it's interesting too because he's out of the main cast. He's the one person not nominated because you have him, you have Ian McKellen and Lynn Redgrave, who both get nominated for Oscars, and Brendan Fraser's sort of left out. But I do think he brings a big contribution to the movie because there is that I've never read the movie as is Brendan Fraser secretly gay? I don't think he is at all. I think
not.
But he's like a gentle giant.
Right.
And I was texting Louis this morning, and I was like, this movie is homosexual.
Yes.
It's just it's the most sensual movie you've ever seen, but it's not, it never crosses over into like the uncomfortable zone.
And even when you think it is going to, it's not about sex and fucking. It's about this man who.
It's not about Ian. It's not about James Whale like exploiting this guy.
Right. It's about him trying, realizing he's losing his mind, and he knows his best days are behind him. I mean, I teared up at the end where they reveal the sketch, and on the back it just says "friend?" ? Like that fucking room, because it wasn't like. Of course, like every one wants the hot straight guy to give them attention. Like yes, but like it doesn't mean that he wanted to like fuck him. It didn't mean he was trying to like be a predator. It was literally like, I'm old and dying and sad and alone, and like, wouldn't it be great if you can give me company? And then maybe could you, I don't know, murder me? But like it's such a weird and layered movie. I fucking love when they go meet Princess Margaret. That fucking whole bit was so good. Funny.
Would you like to come to a party with me? A reception for Princess Margaret. Well, I thought you said you weren't going to go. If you don't mind driving, I'd like to take you as my guest. Yeah, sure, I'm game. Why not? Very good, Clayton. May I call you Clayton?
Clayton?
Yeah, sure. Clayton's fine.
Before we move off of this, too, the last shot in the movie is Brendan Fraser outside. He's just like taking the garbage out, and it begins to rain, and he's walking through the street, and he starts mimicking Frankenstein's monster. That was a suggestion from Brendan Fraser. That was not Bill Condon. He talked him into that.
It's perfect. It's pitch perfect.
It's a perfect little bow on the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not like too aggressive. It's like, because it's no like, it's the tiniest wink, just the tiniest little like, yeah.
And he's not performing for anyone.
Right.
It's just
because he's so far away. Like it's perfect. Right. It's perfect.
99 brings 3 movies. The previously mentioned Blast from the Past, The Mummy, and then Dudley Do-Right. Where do you guys want to start with that one?
Let's just knock Dudley Do-Right right out of the way.
Yeah, it's bad, and I never want to see it again.
It's awful.
They said, what about George the Jungle? But nothing about George the Jungle that made it work. Like, it's just like, it's the worst version of George the Jungle.
You know what's even funnier is it's literally a cool hour, and they tacked on a 10-minute cartoon at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
I think it could have worked, because it's like it's a character that lots of people are familiar with. And first of all, I know he's Canadian in air quotes, but again, hire a Canadian cast.
Yeah.
A movie about Canada. Like, why are we bringing in SJP and Brendan Fraser? Like,
also, I know this was 98, but like, I don't know. Don't do the indigenous. American? Yeah, don't do the indigenous subplot. If you can't,
tribe.
Yeah, if you can't hire a single indigenous actor, don't do it.
I think the thing is, like, Dudley is similar to George, kind of like a dimwit, but like at least in George the Jungle, he has a lot of heart and a lot of like dignity. This movie like strips all the dignity away from Dudley. Like, there is nothing about this man that like is interesting, or he's just there to fall over and over again and be stupid.
That was Brendan Fraser's big complaint too, is he was such a fan of the source material that he was upset that in the end Dudley breaks the law in order to get revenge at Snidely Whiplash, and he's like, Dudley Do-Right wouldn't do that. And it's like, that's very sweet, Brendan, but like, you could have turned it down.
It's a mess.
Also, for most of the movie, he's not a Mountie, and that's the thing that people know.
Right.
Well, I think the theme of his career is, Brendan, you could have turned it down.
You could have turned it down. He admits that, and we'll get to that too. Blast from the Past is a romantic comedy where he stars opposite Alicia Silverstone. Him and his parents have been in a bomb shelter since the 1960s because they thought that their house was nuked, even though it was just a plane falling on top of it.
Yes.
His parents are Christopher Walken and
Sissy Spacek.
It's a cute movie. My big complaint about it is there could be more jokes. Where are the jokes?
There could be more jokes. I watched it with Derek, and Alicia Silverstone has a gay best friend who people might recognize from Will and Grace. I believe he plays
Kids in the Hall.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Dave Foley from Kids in the Hall. Yeah, people might recognize him from Will and Grace. How dare you?
Okay, homosexuals out there, let me hear you say some noise. But Derek was like, I want to see Will and Grace starring Alicia Silverstone and her gay best friend. I like this movie a lot. If he had come up to a woman and said, like, oh yeah, I've been living in a bunker and I want to bring you back down, like, rightly so, she would be fucking freaked out and like call the cops. You know, unlike in Still Breathing, where it's like, LOL. Here, like, she's very like, what the but not only like, she calls like Child Protective Services, you know, like she's actually concerned for him. I think the movie like works in a lot of ways. I think Sissy Spacek is fucking killer in this with Christopher Walken. Like,
yeah,
they are giving, and
the way she's like getting drunk on cooking sherry in the bunker.
I mean,
just drives me nuts. She's hysterical in this.
When there are jokes, they're very funny. Like, I love when, you know, he convinces Alicia Silverstone to make him a champagne cocktail, and she's like, I thought only prostitutes drink yeah, only hookers drink those. And he's like, well, all I know is my mom sure loves them.
I love the moment when like he's going back into the bunker and he's like, bye Todd, thanks for always being happy. And he's like what?
Yeah.
And then she's like, gay. My favorite scene is the club scene where like he has like this three-way dancing Zoot Suit Riot moment, and it's so aggressively like late 90s. Like, that was the vibe. Alicia Silverstone, I think, is also
we loved swing dancing in the late 90s.
Did. Oh, we did. I mean, I can swing dance. Okay. I still know. I
just like and then like Alicia Silverstone is doing like just like bits of like, no, I don't love him. What are you talking about? I don't care. Like, I like Blast from Past.
Listen, I know you like me, okay? I can tell, but you know what? A lot of guys like me. Not me exactly. It's more like my legs or my butt or my hair or some combination of the above.
I think it's the eyes.
The eyes. Great, an eye man. Anyhow, it never works out, okay? Not that you even need to know that. You look like crap. What have you been doing?
I'm watching television in color.
In color? No kidding.
Mm-hmm. Cross my heart, hope to die.
Yeah, see ya.
I grew up on Blast from the Past, so it definitely has a special place in my heart. And it's just, he's such, I mean, Fish Out of Water is his bread and butter. It is what he is perfect at. It's just like hot weirdo. That I just think this movie has a lot of heart. And
then obviously The Mummy. The Mummy is like
The Mummy.
It's literally a movie that's printing money. For those who don't know, he plays Rick O'Connell, who is essentially like an Indiana Jones type rapscallion who gets drawn into this brother and sister's plot to seek out the city of the dead in Egypt at the same time as another treasure.
Fucks.
Yeah, some American fucks are trying to get that treasure, and they all accidentally awaken a mummy whose one goal is to get his lady back so they can do it for eternity.
Yeah,
right.
That's the real loose translation, but that's exactly Rachel Weisz.
We talked about this on our Rachel Weisz episode, which is one of our most popular episodes.
It is our most popular episode to date.
And it stars Rachel Weisz's eyebrows, or more famously, doesn't.
The lack
thereof. They are teeny tiny. But I mean, if you didn't know Brendan Fraser before, you did after The Mummy, because my God, this is like the perfect like action, romance, comedy. Like it's all quadrants have been met.
Right. My biggest criticism of The Mummy is the fact that the subtitle font is basically papyrus.
Horrible.
And everything else can stand behind.
You know what's really funny is I was going to say my least favorite thing about The Mummy is the stylization of the way The Mummy is spelled in the opening credits with like the big M in the middle. Yeah, exactly.
we got a lot of edits for posts.
I think him and Rachel Weisz have such hot chemistry.
Oh my God.
She's so good. She's playing, the brains of the situation. She's a librarian and she can speak the dead languages, and she starts off kind of nerdy, she has the glasses and everything, and then she loosens up by getting drunk and I think he just plays those scenes with such like cool detachment, but also like it is sort of like you both were saying earlier about there's a mysterious quality to him, and that comes in this. But I also love the fact that like his Rick O'Connell, he's not brilliant. You know, he's not he's the guy who's like willing to throw himself at the problem physically without thinking it through. And then when he does have a good thought, like the second time he scares the mummy away with a cat, it's like he's so fucking proud of himself.
I think I'm gonna this is a time I have something very controversial to say. I'm so sorry in advance.
Oh my God, I can't
please do not
can't wait to cancel Louis. What?
I was thinking, I was like, you know, these type of blockbusters are what Hollywood like lives for. Like they are always looking for this level of blockbuster. This is the type of shit where they're like, let's make 3 more of these. Let's, you know, and these are the types of roles that like really fucking launch people into the stratosphere. And I thought, who is that today? And unfortunately, I think it's Chris Pratt. And I think I see a lot of Chris Pratt, at least his career, in Brendan Fraser, because they both are, for better or worse, and like, to be clear, like Chris Pratt, like fuck off, but like they both have that affable everyman, but they're also clearly super attractive, and that's why people like Chris Pratt, because he can make you laugh, but you like, he's sexy, but he's not taking himself too seriously. And I was thinking, like, my God, like the fucking Guardians of the Galaxy guy is Rick O'Connell. Like, you know, they are all the same guy who are. I didn't see any of the new fucking Jurassic Park movies, so like whatever. But like I imagine it's the same shit. Like it's just Chris Pratt being hot and kind of silly, and like the guy who's going to save the day, because and it's a specific mold of Hollywood leading man. I mean, fucking Tom Cruise has been doing it for his entire career. There's a long line of this type of performer, and you know, it's wild to think that like he got there. Like he didn't start off here, right? He finally just got to The Mummy and really hit it, and then we're going to kind of see the slow sloping downward of his career, and the trying to like recapture that, trying to like, you know, I think they were writing a lot of checks because he did do this movie and did deliver this, but like it never really kind of hit that level again. So I felt very upset at myself that I was like, yes, Chris Pratt, the Brendan Fraser of our generation.
I think you're right, except for that. Yeah, I hate Chris Pratt a lot more.
Yes, I don't disagree, but I was like, oh, this is the lane that he's driving in.
Well, it's like, who is Hollywood setting up to be that person? Who's getting all these roles that are, you know, hot and goofy? And it is Chris Pratt, unfortunately.
So, I mean, The Mummy's a huge success. You know, it makes over $100 million on an $80 million budget. So, of course, they're like, it's bankable. We'll make a sequel. They do a sequel 2 years later. Also, during that time, you know, Fox has the hit of Titanic on its hands, so Fox is just writing checks. And so after he does that movie, he does Monkey Bone, which is 2001, and Bedazzled in 2000. Fox is just cashing out their, you know, he has said himself they didn't really care what they're making. And so like these high concepts, you know, Bedazzled's a remake of a movie from the 60s starring Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, and it's him and Elizabeth Hurley, who's the devil, and he like wants to bang his coworker, so he sells his soul for 7 wishes, and because she's the devil, they're like all bad wishes.
Yes.
What we, the public, put Brendan through in this movie. Like this movie, this movie's not good, but he is working his ass off in this movie, and we make him be everything. And
everything.
I could almost feel his exhaustion.
A little casual race makeup. Were you thinking like, the like weird, incredibly like 7 foot tall basketball player with a tiny penis. That's like clearly meant to be like a white Dennis Rodman, which is a weird choice. I will say I love the redheaded guy, the like sensitive guy.
The one that's too sensitive. But for like the first bit where he's a Colombian drug lord goes on for far too long.
It's so long. It's clear that they were like, we're gonna spend money on like the helicopter. We're gonna spend money like. I think there are like some funny bits. I think it's funny that everyone in his life plays all the other characters as well.
Yes.
Like, that's a funny bit to me.
I shout out to Toby Huss, I think it's Huss or Huss, Huss. Great actor. He's in 3 Brendan Fraser films, by the way, as well. So it's not like just this film, but he's the one who, like, he's a sports announcer. He's his boyfriend when he's punished by being gay, by the way. I do like that the movie's like being gay, punishment.
Yeah, it was 2000, baby.
Little Fire Island shout out. That scene.
Yeah. I will say
think
he's very hot when he's gay. Like when he I was like, okay, he's very hot in this world. Just be gay, babe. Just do it.
And I'll give him this, and also in Twilights of the Gold, every time that he's cast as a gay person, I've never seen him like mince. I've never seen him like shoot for the stars of like, he's never like just jacked.
Yeah,
he's just
has to like flag it up. It's just he's just like gays are normal humans.
Well, I also love the message. It's like, hey, ladies, did you meet a man who dresses well, is smart, and respects you? Sorry, he's gay.
Yeah.
I love that the question that trips him up that, to prove that he's gay is who was in the original cast of the Pajama Game.
I know,
very good.
I know.
There's jokes that are funny.
I also do like the whole thing, like where they're like, we're going to prove that you're gay. And it's just like him kissing her, and he's like, "Nope, yep, you're right, gay."
Yep, he's like, "I'm gay."
Kiss me.
Oh, this is just sad.
You shut up, bitch! Please, Allison, let me kiss you. Remember the champagne, the corpuscles?
All right, Elliot, kiss me.
I'm gay. No, thanks for dropping by.
Good night.
That movie's not good. I appreciate I appreciate 2 things in it specifically, which is I do like the fact that he gets to do so many different things, and like you said, it's kind of putting him through hell. But like, I because some of it I was like, does he have the range? Maybe not.
Right.
But I also think Elizabeth Hurley's costumes are all really great. Very early 2000s. But the director has said that the schoolgirl uniform came from her own closet, which I refuse to believe because it's red like all of her other costumes.
Right.
And I think that was marketing.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, they were selling it off of Elizabeth Hurley. They're like, could you believe how hot she is? And she's a devil. Uh-oh, women are bad.
That movie is like, it's like Elizabeth Hurley like hosting the Grammys. It's just, she comes in every few minutes with a new outfit on.
Yeah.
Was the least.
Very good. Monkey Bone is about an artist who's falls into a coma after a car accident, and his creation Monkey Bone turns out to be basically like a demon from another realm that's filled with nightmares, and it steals his body, and then he, Whoopi Goldberg comes as Death and gives him Chris Kattan's body so he can get his body back before Earth is cast into a realm of nightmares. It's very high concept. It's Henry Selick, the guy that did Nightmare Before Christmas. And honestly, the worst bit about Monkey Bone is Monkey Bone itself. Like, I like a lot of the concepts. I like a lot of the way like the Nightmare Town looks. Like, there's lots of things in it, but it's a movie that's constantly in its own way.
My issue with Monkey Bone is it's PG-13, so it's like, either scale it down and make it PG, and so more young kids can enjoy it, or scale it all the way up and go for that R rating, because it's just in this murky middle ground where it's like squarely for 7th grade boys. So I just like pick a lane. Right. It was too murky for me.
Yeah.
I didn't get to Monkey Bone, so I have nothing to say.
Wow, you really missed out.
Like, I was like, it's either this or Gods and Monsters, and I said, I'm gonna go away from the monkey animation movie.
The nenext film after that is The Mummy Returns in 2001. 2 mummies, two returns.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know how much you guys have to say about that. It's
the same movie,
just more. Yeah. It's the same movie, just more.
It's really the same movie, but I kind of like it better. Why? I know.
This is where The Rock comes in, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is where The Rock comes in.
Shout out to Scorpion King getting all that love after Nope this past weekend.
Post-Nope bump.
I know Louis' visceral hatred for child actors, but like I think this kid is good. I gotta say.
Well, I will say the thing about you being wrong is that you're wrong in this situation.
I didn't revisit Mummy 2.
I didn't either.
I was like, I know what it is. It is what it is.
As you mentioned, like this is sort of now the downslope. I mean, he is still doing high profile things. In 2002, he does The Quiet American, which is a drama based off a Graham Greene book, co-starring Michael Caine. I didn't get a chance to revisit this, but I remember really liking this movie when I saw it. And I remember him being fine, but not leaving me with a huge impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Michael Caine's movie.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, but also, I don't know that I liked it. I mean, I get the politics of this movie. And I mean, I read that they had to like delay it because of after 9/11, it was too critical of the government and stuff like that. But like it also, this is an American that's not going to be quiet about this. Okay, it's just very much like, and now they did this bad thing about. It's also a movie about Vietnam and like, but it's literally the only person that we talk to who's like Vietnamese is like that poor woman who's like being sold off to like these two guys. I also don't like the idea that like he's supposed to be this secret CIA agent, but he's like, oh wait, but I did see this woman and I want to like fuck her brains out and marry her. And I'm like, why is that plot even here? What is going on? But apparently it was well received by critics, and Michael Caine is Michael Caineing about, and he's always good. So there's that.
I mean, that plot about the girlfriend is just a really played out metaphor for Vietnam.
Right,
you know,
right.
She's Vietnam. And
she is Vietnam. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And being like tossed around and exploited, and no one being like, hey girl, what do you want?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's a beautiful movie.
Beautiful.
It's funny because he's like going back and forth between these serious contemplative roles like The Quiet American, and then the next year, 2003, he does Looney Tunes Back in Action, which is, it was Joe Dante trying to recapture a Looney Tunes feel in a post Space Jam world, and I just don't think that's what kids wanted. And yeah, it's a bit of a mess.
What's unfortunate is like even in that movie he decides to poke fun at Brendan with like the mummy jokes. But this is like maybe one of the few movies where it does feel like there is a little bit ego, or it does feel like he's holding back and not as open. He's not going for the slapstick that we know he can do. It's not as physical. I mean, obviously like you're fucking up against like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, like, you can't win. But like, it's weird. In a lot of his movies, I'm like, oh, he's such a cartoon character. And in the movie where there's a bunch of cartoon characters, he becomes just like stiff aboard.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if this is when the pain is starting, because he is putting himself in these positions where he could really go for it like he always was, but he just can't get there. And I'm like, this is probably a man whose body is falling apart.
I think it's funny. He voices the Tasmanian Devil, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. So there's a really great GQ article that came out, I want to say in 2018. It was initially called Whatever Happened to This Guy. It was then retitled to Whatever Happened to Brendan Fraser. And, he talks about this movie, and one of the things that drew him to it was the fact that he got to play his stunt double, but he also got to play himself. And there's a scene towards the end of the movie where he gets to punch himself in the face. And he thought of that as like ego death. So it's interesting that you looked at this movie, Louis, and you're like, oh, he's holding back. I wonder if that's part of it too, because this is around the era that depression starts and that pain starts too, because also what was revealed in that GQ article is that his body was starting to fall apart from what he was putting through it. And it really doesn't come to a head until he makes the third Mummy movie, which is still a few years off. But he said he was doing things like hiding like ice packs underneath his costumes, doing like knee pads. He ends up having to have some vertebrae fused from back injuries. He ends up having to have a partial knee replacement. He ends up having to have vocal cord surgery to repair his vocal cords from all the abuse that he's putting his own body through. And so, yeah, like it's funny that like you look at something as throwaway as Looney Tunes Back in Action, which is, I think, a decently fun movie, but you can kind of see where it's been butchered and kind of see where it doesn't work and everything. And think about like, oh, it was both really mentally and physically taxing for this this man that was the handsome lead.
Right. I think, the best part of the movie are the Looney Tunes. Like, I think all the tunes are funny, they're fun, like the bits are good.
You live with Daddy?
Yeah, so just, kind of temporarily.
Oh, I've hit rock bottom. I'm hanging out with a security guard who lives with his father.
It's like the humans around it are kind of like, it feels like, even though they're trying to do this meta thing about Warner Brothers and making a movie or whatever, it definitely feels like the puppeteer strings are everywhere. But yeah, you're totally right, because after this, he has the small bit in Crash, which is, very small.
Which wins the Academy Award, but he doesn't win the Academy Award. So
but then like after that, we are now on an increasingly vertical slope downward, and it probably had to do with his. Well, he reveals a lot of things later, but he's dealing with this depression, his body. I think this is about the time where his marriage is falling apart, and I think also he was having these bombs. A lot of these movies were bombing, and so the further we got away from The Mummy, the less executives were like, "Oh, that's fine."
Probably just throwing himself into work when all of this is happening around him. So he's just like, it's just stinker after stinker because he, excuse me while I act as Brendan Fraser's like therapist from 20 years ago, but it just feels, as someone who goes to therapy herself, I feel like I can judge others in that way. So it really does feel like the world is crashing around him, and he's like, I'm just gonna go do what I know how to do, which is like run into walls and be goofy, and it fucking hurts a lot more than it used to.
Post that, like you said, he starts doing a lot of like TV bits. He shows up on Scrubs, on Simpsons, on King of the Hill. In March of 2006, he's inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame, even though to date he still does not have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
He deserves one.
I know, that's quite shocking. And he slides into a lot of these independent roles. You mentioned Crash. He does this film called Journey to the End of the Night. The Last Time, which is a film with Michael Keaton, which I believe was my 1-star review on the Michael Keaton episode. So I just did not revisit it for this. I just remember hating it.
My favorite part of that movie is like everyone's ruining each other's lives, and then at the end everyone is like happy after they all kind of got what they wanted, and so it's like you walk away being like, oh, so evil does prevail. Okay, great.
My kind of party, honestly.
Yeah.
He does The Air I Breathe, and then in 2008 it's his big, I want to say that like this is his last year of blockbusters. 2008 you get Journey to the Center of the Earth, in which he was also the executive producer, The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which is the final Mummy film of the three, and Inkheart. Inkheart, I just briefly want to start with, I had not seen it. I read the book. It was weirdly like one of the last books my dad gave me before he passed away, so I didn't read it for a very long time, and then I did, and it was fine. And then I watched the movie, and I was like, oh, this is not really the book. And also, what's funny is the author's German, and she told him she wrote this role for him. And it's sort of the tail end of these three. He like told the studio he didn't want to do it.
You can fucking
not because content or anything, but I think he was just exhausted.
Yeah.
I think Inkheart's bad. It makes me mad remembering it. I mean, like, I'm sure as a book it works really well, but like as a movie, it's just like the power of storytelling and coming to life.
Here's the thing, and here's where I'll disagree with you, even though I am agreeing with you that the movie doesn't work. It should work. It should be this big lavish thing. The idea that you can read anything into existence is so much fun and so cool. And, there's plenty of stuff that they do that's like fully public domain. They're like a winged monkey and like a unicorn. Like, that's fine. But like, it's so boring. There's like 3 sets in the entire movie. They're like, here's a castle, here's a library. Like, for as much fun as having Helen Mirren show up in a turban, like, I didn't think anybody was that into the movie either. Even Andy Serkis, who
I think I will say Paul Bettany is very hot, and that's what I will say.
Yes. Yeah. The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I mean, the less said, the better. We talked about it in our Michelle Yeoh episode. It's really bad. Their son is an adult now. It's not even Rachel Weisz anymore. It's Maria Bello. And I saw Journey to Center Earth for the first time, and I was like, "This is for the kids. It's for the kids." Yeah,
and it's fine.
It's for children. Like just
and it's also like I think it's peak 3D nonsense, right? Like everything is like flying at your face and whatever.
It's so much CG that I was just like, oh boy.
they were on a green screen for a couple weeks.
Trevor, what's at the bottom?
Well, if what Virgo was right, these tunnels could go for hundreds and thousands of miles.
Third was not right. Trevor, finish. What's at the bottom?
Most likely theory is that it probably just ends.
It's really downhill after, he does Furry Vengeance, which I did not watch. I'm sorry.
I watched it. It's, again, for the kids. It's a lot of fart jokes.
Also in 2010, he gets to do a movie with one of his screen heroes, Harrison Ford. He does Extraordinary Measures. I remember when this movie came out because that's when I was working in the news, and I remember having to work from a really terrible EPK of it. And it's just the line of Harrison Ford being like, I already work 7 days a week. It's a medical drama. It's really like, I feel bad because these movies that are made like this have their heart in such the right place, but honestly, if people would just fucking go see a documentary that's not about true crime, you would be saved this schmaltz, because where this movie fails is that it's like so heavy-handed, and so like Harrison Ford's character is so unpleasant that he can't possibly have been a real person, even though he's based off a real person. Yeah. And on the reverse of that, Brendan Fraser's character is so angelic and so like altruistic, and then you find out that the guy that he's based off in real life is a fucking Republican. Hate it. Yeah, like I don't know.
This is the era where it feels like the career is like in scramble mode. It is in full panic, like Extraordinary Measures, Furry Vengeance. Like, okay, then let's do like super bullshit indie like wannabe Wes Anderson movies. Like it's darkness for a while.
So you saw Hairbrained.
I did see it. Hairbrained. That's exactly the movie I was thinking. I was like, this movie
Hairbrained, which could have just been called Not Rushmore.
Yeah. Hairbrained has a solid 40 minutes. Unfortunately, I checked the time at that point and was like, oh, we're halfway through. I was like, fuck.
I was like, this movie thinks it's saying something, but it's really not.
I do want to say I did like the scene, and this is objectifying him, whatever, I don't care. The scene where he's like talking to his belly button or whatever, what he's laying on. I was like, I'm into this.
And he's like playing golf on his stomach.
Yes, that's what it was. I was like, I could deal with this shirtless Brendan Fraser.
Also, so gross watching like college age adults and like older people like quasi-sexualize a 13-year-old. It's like, this is disgusting, please.
I'm Leo Surley, late bloomer.
I'm Eli Pettifog, child prodigy.
Eli, it's your first day of college. You're gonna have plenty of time to sit alone and hate yourself.
Are you Eli Pettifog, the 13-year-old freshman? I want to have your really, really smart baby.
What makes you think the 9 months in your womb will make the baby really, really stupid?
But that's 2013, where he also does, Breakout, which was like the worst CW movie I've ever seen. He does Gimme Shelter, which is anti-abortion propaganda. Shocking. That movie, like, I got so, Vanessa Hudgens, I kind of understand. I feel like you could maybe, she was early in her career, you could maybe trick her into doing this, but everybody else in that movie, I was like, no excuse.
At the end of the movie, I was crying, and then I was mad at myself because I was like, you are falling victim to exactly what they want you to fall victim to.
And that's the thing. But that's the fact that they were able to cast Ann Dowd and cast Rosario Dawson fucking showed up for this movie, and it
gave it her all.
And it annoyed the shit out of me because I was like, no.
Well, it's weird. It says on its Wikipedia, it's an independent Christian drama film, but it was released by Roadside Attraction. So like they were trying to trick everyone to thinking like, oh, this is just like an indie film, but no, it's fucking propaganda.
Yeah. It's 2014. He does a voice in The Nut Job, and then there's a huge break in his career, and he pops up on TV a little bit, but for the most part, he's not doing movies. He did join the cast of The Affair in season 3, the Showtime show. And it's funny because that's when people suddenly realize that he had not been acting for like 3 or 4 years. Famously, he goes on to build series on AOL/Verizon, and he does a really awkward interview where he like talks in like a hushed whisper, and he seems really sad and maudlin, and it goes viral basically as like a way to make fun of Brendan Fraser. Like people are like, oh, he's so sad.
I think
and so
also,
maybe he has an alcohol
yeah, and I
issue.
think people also were just like, because they hadn't seen him in a while, and when you think of Brendan, you think of a specific look, and he just didn't look the way he looks in our memories anymore. He's a bigger guy now, but like because his compounding health issues, it was jarring because for a moment he was everywhere. He was making 3 movies a summer, and so yeah, it definitely went viral. I think like millennials were like, whoa, what happened? And there was a moment. The good thing about this though is like there's the immediate swing to the other side where people are like, fuck off, he's amazing, so nice. I've
relented a bit in recent years. I have 3 sons, and I needed to ensure their comfort and safety, and so their mother also, the lovely and talented my former wife Afton. It was around that time that I think I just asked myself, why am I running so far so fast all at once? And I won't lie, it was part and parcel from having done a lot of stunt work in movies like The Mummy and you name them. I think I was just so game and ready to go no matter what, that they figured, well, heck, he's here, he's made up, he's paid for it, we might as well have him jump off the cliff or do whatever you could do. Light him on fire, too. And I'd just be like, yep, sure, I'll do another one, no problem. Oh, it didn't hurt that much. Ugh.
So that GQ article comes out a year later, and he explains in it, he's like, literally 3 days before that interview, my mom died of cancer. Mm-hmm. And so we were putting my mom in the ground, and suddenly I was in front of a live studio audience advertising a show I'm barely on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I could see that fucking somebody up.
Yeah.
But, no one got that context. And so I don't know. I'm not defending the people who thought that. It's really shitty to behave that way. But like, I don't know. It's tough. He should. I almost wish he had canceled.
Said no.
Yeah.
It's like,
he absolutely should have.
Showtime or whoever could have been like, you know what, babe? We don't need to go fucking AOL.
Take some time off.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the classic Britney Spears trajectory.
Right.
We tear them down to build them back up again.
Yeah.
Right. And so like after that, he basically starts doing TV. He does Trust for FX. He starts doing the voice of Robot Man and Doom Patrol, which is a spinoff of Titans. So he started there for one episode and then spun off, but he doesn't provide the physical Robot Man. That is another actor who surprisingly went to the same college as him, just 24 years apart.
Casual.
And yeah, so he's doing those things. And then last year, or in 2019, he has a couple movies like trickle out. There's The Poison Rose, which I made the mistake of watching. It's not really until 2021's No Sudden Move where he comes back in a supporting role in a Steven Soderbergh film, and people really take notice. They're like, oh, like he's like doing movies again. Right. And it's funny, when I told Dan, my boyfriend, we were doing Brendan Fraser, he like looked at his career and he was like, he's never really worked with any interesting directors. And I was like, yeah, but he's doing that now. Yep. And it's almost like, in a way, and like I don't want to compare him to Mickey Rourke, but in a similar way, it was almost like his career had to go to shambles in order for him to come back for us to really appreciate him. And also, I think because, as you mentioned, Louis, you opened the door for this, so we might as well he doesn't look the way he used to. Now he is able to truly be the character actor because he's not being cast as like the oiled up George of the Jungle abs machine.
Right. It's interesting, you know, the idea like he hasn't worked with like quote interesting directors. Like I think it's probably difficult. He's the era that he worked in, you know, like in the 90s, like I think he was taking swings. Like, what the fuck is Darkly Noon if not like, you know, this fucking weird project thing? But I think just the movies that were being made and the movies that were making money, and again, like I can't believe that like he kept swinging for these dramatic roles. Like even like, you know, Gods and Monsters, which is great, and it seems like this kind of like aberration because everything else that has been such a hit and success was kind of like these comedy slapstick things, which is probably why he kept kind of going back like to very furry vengeance and type shit. Like you can see in the later years of his career, like he's trying to go back to the well of, you know, even Journey to Center Earth is kind of like action, romance, comedy, like trying to recapture all that stuff. So it is super interesting to see where he is now. And because again, he's still so young, he's like in his 50s. And he can finally move away from like, you know, maybe there is no magic to recapture. Maybe there's like this whole other side of him that we haven't seen yet. And I think the Renaissance is upon us. We're going to get, this is just the beginning. And it's exciting. It's exciting to like see what he can do that's not, you know, George of the Jungle style comedy.
Right. But it is like there's a dark side of that because Poison Rose or whatever that movie was I watched, where he's basically like, oh my God, he was basically like playing Orson Welles in Touch of Evil, but with the voice of Truman Capote. Like I was like, what is he doing? Like, what are these choices?
He's making some choices.
Why couldn't you just get lost? You were warned so many times.
Just let me guess. He was billing patients' families after they was dead. That didn't make you enough money. So you started a new business with Lorenzo. Is that right?
That's about the low and skinny of it.
Before we move into our picks, I do want to bring up just a bit of his personal life. We mentioned his wife, Afton Smith. He met her at a barbecue in 1993, July 4th barbecue that was hosted by Winona Ryder, casual, and they married in 98 on September 27th. They have had 3 sons together. Arthur Fraser, who was born in 2002, so he's 20 now, Holden Fletcher Fraser in 2004, and Leland Francis Fraser. They decided to divorce in 2007. It sounds a little messy, you know, who knows what really happened there, but he was ordered to pay $50,000 of alimony for 10 years or until she remarried, in addition to $25,000 monthly for child support, which was supposed to end in January 2019. In 2013, he petitioned to like get that reduced because, you know, that's $900,000 annually.
And this was about the time when like the movies were not hitting.
Right. He's since moved to Bedford, New York, which is, you know, not too far above the city. He lives on a ranch. He has horses. He's mentioned his eldest son is on the autism spectrum. He does speak French, which is clearly a Canadian thing. He is also an accomplished amateur archer. Okay, Gina Davis.
Okay.
I know. Yeah, because in the GQ article, when he gets a little too overwhelmed, he tells the journalist that he needs to go outside and like shoot some arrows.
Wow.
Early. We talked about the physical demands that he's placed on his body. His back was also injured after he attempted to clear a fallen tree during Hurricane Sandy. That required more surgery and rehabilitation, and I think you can kind of see it when you look at him in interviews. He's a little stiff now, and that's really unfortunate. I mean, once they have to fuse vertebrae, it's really not great. So like I feel bad for him about that. Also in 2018, he did have his own Me Too moment. He accused Philip Burke in the summer of 2003 of groping him at a luncheon for the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. At the time, Philip Burke was the president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. He like graphically describes it in the GQ article because I think a lot of people have downplayed it as, like his butt was pinched.
Right.
But as he describes it, and I do want to read it because I think like it's a little unfair. People act like he's like overblowing it. He says his left hand reaches around, grabs my ass cheek, and one of his fingers touches me in the taint, and he starts moving it around. Fraser says that in the moment he was overcome with panic and fear. When he was able to, he removed Burke's hand, and he said he felt ill. I felt like a little kid. I felt like there was a ball in my throat. I thought I was going to cry. He rushed out of the room, outside, past a police officer he couldn't quite bring himself to confess to, and then home, where he told his then wife, Afton, what had happened. I felt like somebody had thrown invisible paint on me, he says. Burke has denied this. The Hollywood Foreign Press has also denied that they've had any responsibility in the fact that his career waned after that. But he, hasn't really been invited to the Golden Globes since. And
yeah, fuck the Hollywood Foreign Press.
Yeah.
They suck.
Yeah.
A lot of people have come out and said, of course this happened to you, because we've heard of other stories of this guy being an absolute creep with men. So I good for him for just laying out all the details, being like, you want to hear about abuse? I'll tell you.
And the crazy thing is this man has like quote unquote apologized for anything that he might have done to upset Brendan Fraser, but he's also said all I did was pinch his butt. It's like, buddy, that's still no.
Right.
Like,
right. Who the fuck are you to be touching anybody that way? Like,
right. Absolutely.
I cannot believe like
it's just tough. And we're in this moment where it's like, you definitely need to like listen to victims. You need to believe victims, and you need to understand them. Brendan Fraser is a tall, wide football player of a guy. And I think coming forward, it's one of those things that says like, this can happen to anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a time in anyone's career when the phone stops ringing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that the HFPA really wielded that much power. This was not an executive. This was a former president of that organization, which is essentially journalists. I'm hopeful that we can make even more progress than we have done already, which is a good start. And so far as speaking up if and when this happens to people.
I'm more happy and glad that Brendan is getting this second wind to his career, and it seems to be like there's a lot more ahead for him. So, he spoke his truth, and I think there's so much good. It's also telling, like, for someone whose movies were like misfiring and maybe his choices haven't always been great, like he has such an immense well of goodwill from like people who enjoyed his movies and stuff, that people are excited to have him back and have this or encourage and root for him in these next couple of years. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And on that positive note, I think we should move into our picks, but we're going to do the negative first. And we're going to start with our 1-star reviews and talk about the Brendan Fraser films that we didn't perhaps love.
All right, Sam, as our girly guest, you get the pleasure of telling us what yours is first.
So this was for weeks, because I had so long to watch all of these. So for a long time, I was like, damn, this is hard because he's in so many bad movies, but he is good in them.
Yeah, I agree.
But then I found some exceptions to the rule, and my 1-star is 2007's The Air I Breathe. This movie is like, it's like, we're dark, we're gritty, like you don't get us, we're different. And it just has this attitude throughout the whole movie where it's like, you're not even ready for what we're about to tell you. It's going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
So the whole movie is based on a Chinese proverb that like breaks life down into 4 emotions: happiness, pleasure, sorrow, and love. And it's an anthology. I mean, Brendan loves an anthology film too. He loves to be in like big ensembles that people are weaving in.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was one we didn't even, $20 I watched.
$20.
Yep.
Yeah. And so It's a film like that where, you know, everyone's lives weave together in weird ways that you don't see coming. Brendan Fraser is like what would you call him? A hitman, a mobster for this bookie. Like his job is to like beat people up, but surprise, he's also clairvoyant.
Uh-oh.
And so the four like quote unquote main characters don't have names. They just represent happiness, sorrow, pleasure, and love. And somehow, some way, his character is pleasure, even though there's remarkably little pleasure going on in this man's life. He's like very haunted by the memory of his brother growing up, because the two of them got in a fight, and his brother ended up dying in this fight. And so he's, you know, he needs to be in therapy, as we all do. And it's just somehow, some way, Sarah Michelle Gellar is a pop star.
Yes. I remember this very well.
Like, weaves into his life because her manager owes this bookie money. And
he can't see her future, though, because it's mysterious and crazy.
Right, because it's mysterious.
As all pop stars are, truly.
Right. He like loses his powers.
Oh no.
And all of a sudden can't see what's going to happen in the future anymore.
That doesn't sound very pleasurable.
No, there's truly no pleasure. And he's just so like one note in this movie. And I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of his mind, but my interpretation is he's just trying to play this very hurt person who has a very dark life, but there's no joy to him at all.
I'm gonna cut you a break. I'm coming back next week, all right? I need you to get that money. I wanna make sure Fingers gets it. Because if he doesn't, he's gonna get one of these. Don't want that. Okay? I'll see you next week.
Also, I was like, I need a Brendan Fraser sex scene so bad. And I finally get one, and it's the most tame, boring. It's just like chickens pecking at each other.
Yeah. I did not rewatch it, but I remember her, and I think it's a very valid choice. Gavin, what about you?
It's funny because my 1-star review is actually from a similar era. This is a movie that I almost skipped, and then I was like, you know what, I might as well. I've never heard of it. Journey to the End of the Night. It's a crime thriller from 2006, directed by Eric Eason, also starring Yaslin Bey, which most people know as Mos Def, but he since changed his name, Scott Glenn, Alice Braga. It's about this crime family. Brendan Fraser plays Scott Glenn's son. Scott Glenn plays a character named Sinatra.
LOL.
So clever. And they're in Brazil, and they're trying to complete this drug deal, and they have this go-between who you meet in the very first scene and dies while having sex with a trans woman. And so they need a new go-between who can speak this African language. And so Scott Glenn hires Mos Def, this character Wemba, to go do this drug deal because he will only speak to the, you know, in this African language. And he fucks it up and everything goes bad. My real problem with this is Brendan Fraser plays this like totally sadistic character, Paul. Like when he meets this trans woman, when he finds the first go-between has died and he meets this trans woman, he slashes her face casually with a razor blade. You know, he orders one of his men to shoot a dog. You know, it's just it's scene after scene of them being like, isn't he bad? Isn't he terrible? Look at how bad he is. He's not up for it.
Right.
Brendan Fraser, if there's one thing he can't play, it's fully evil. And it just, you never buy it. You just never for 1 second think this is a man ordering another man to shoot a dog. And I feel bad being like, she doesn't have the range, but she doesn't have the range for this.
Tell him that if he doesn't cooperate, you're going to shoot his dog. What?
I'm not gonna shoot his dog, man.
Yeah, you are going to shoot his fucking dog.
He's no good, man. He's no good.
Let me explain something to you, okay? We're fucked forever if we don't find this African dude, okay? That means no money. No money for you, no money for me, no money for anybody. We might as well just jump in front of a fucking train. Am I getting through to you?
Yeah. Obviously, the there's a reason why you cast 2 white men and then you put them in a foreign city and have them be evil.
Right.
But then to do nothing truly with any of the minority characters, to make them so paper thin, it's like, okay, well, now you've lost your point about how awful white people are as well too, because everything is so paper thin that it didn't say anything. This movie was a pointless exercise in like, how graphic can we be? Wow. And yeah, I just did not find it enjoyable at all. And once again, Brendan is very much the weak spot. Bluey, do you have a 1-star review for us?
I do. And we've talked about it a little bit at length. It is 1996's Mrs. Winterbourne. I just can't believe. Also, so this is a movie that is based off a novel called I Married a Dead Man, which is a great title. A great title.
And previously made into a thriller movie starring Barbara Stanwyck in the Mrs. Winterbourne role.
Yes, and it's been made in French. It's been made in Hindi. What the? Why is it called Mrs. Winterbourne?
Right.
What the fuck? Like, it is the most wannabe, like, you know, interesting high concept movie, but like made with like, I don't know, fucking like lace gloves on it, and Ricky Lake playing, you know, like she's like, I'm just a kid from New York and I don't understand. Like, that whole bit to me was so grating, and I like Shirley MacLaine is doing her best, and you know, good for her, and like is very loving, and like there are some sweet moments here, but I think unfortunately, the Brendan Fraser that I want to see is the one that died at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, totally. I want to watch his movie.
Yeah, he's like wearing like a vest and like cool glasses, and then we just end up with like, and I was telling Sam this, like, this guy, his whole character is how he is only into business. He hates fun and love and everything. They literally go hang out at a park for one day, and all of a sudden his entire personality changes. And like, I was like, who fucking wrote this fucking movie? And I just don't think, and again, like we mentioned in Bedazzled, I think he's up for the game of like playing all these characters. In this movie, it just seems like he's like, the bit of like being boring is not working out, and he can't really swing it. And boring man turned into like, you know, puppy love dog man. It just really isn't working for moi.
What do you think of Patricia?
I think she's terrific.
I think so too. I think I like her.
Uh-huh.
Is that okay? I mean, you know, she's my brother's widow, maybe. Maybe not, but we can leave that for now. I mean, shouldn't I be feeling guilty or something? I don't know what I'm feeling.
Happy?
Could be. Could be happy. Could be an aneurysm.
This movie, to me, desperately wants to be Pretty Woman. Like, it very much wants to be like, you know, girl from the wrong side of the streets, rich family, and like kind of the kookiness of that. But like, it's just too scared to like really fucking go there. And instead it's just like, it's hampered on all angles.
I am not going to take back my statement from before, though. I do really think the scene where he kisses her from the first time is very sweet.
Oh my God,
and
incredible.
I think he acts the heck out of that.
Yeah. I really like that scene too.
But okay, let's get out of our 1-star reviews and let's head over to our 5-star reviews.
So I knew this was going to be my pick going in, and I stuck to my guns. Wow. It is 1999's Blast from the Past. I just think, to me, it's like truly, I'm like, is that just Brendan Fraser's personality? Is he just, because just like
sad little puppy dog man who's also like really adorable.
Yeah, right. It's just, I mean, imagine if this man weren't hot, what a fucking nightmare he would be. But because he looks like Brendan Fraser, he just gets away with everything. And I just think this story is so funny and such a like interesting satirical take on like Cold War politics.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken truly doing the least but giving the most.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's 90s Christopher Walken for you.
And I mean, the way that he's trying to explain baseball to his to Brendan Fraser.
I was just thinking that he's like, and so then you hit the ball with a bat, the nocturnal flying mammal.
Right.
No, like
I think it's like the innocence. He plays innocent so well, and he's such a big it's. He does that so well, and because again it's like this kind of he does unknowing he's a tall, strapping, handsome man, and so when the women are fawning all over him, he's like, what's going on? Like, oh no, Eve, and the whole Adam and Eve of it all, it's silly, but I too also deeply love Blast of the Past.
I probably watch this movie once, if not twice a year. It just gives me so much joy, and I always was very into it, but then I watched it during the pandemic. We're still in a pandemic, but the height of it, and I was like, oh, this is all of us.
Yeah, all of us right now.
We are all trapped and re-emerging and don't know how to interact with the world anymore.
I still don't. I never did.
And I just think that, he's got great chemistry with Alicia Silverstone.
Sing it to me.
I have often walked down this street before, but the pavement always stayed beneath my feet before. All at once am I, several stories high, knowing I'm on the street where you live. It's a song about a young man who's overjoyed just to be standing in front of the house of the person that he loves.
It felt to me like they were handling with care. There is a lot of humanity in this movie, even though it's such a high concept, and it could easily go to and there are crazy kooky bits. There's the whole gag of the people who think they're God or whatever.
That's the weak spot for me. That's the area where I'm where are the jokes? Come on,
right? And that is a part where they ignore for a long time.
Yeah, when they come back, you're we're still doing this.
Oh, right, exactly.
I will say I also just really like the look of the movie. I think it really captures the very kitschy, commercially 1960s, and then I love that it is oh yeah, 1997 is hell.
Right.
I mean, but it kind of captures the perfect, because we were in that zoot suit riot fantasy obsession. It's the perfect encapsulation of the 60s and coming back around to the 90s and the reflection of each other. Yeah, very good pick, Sam.
Thank you.
Gavin, what about you?
It's funny because I came into this knowing what my 5-star review was, and then I changed it last minute because I think doing this and watching this and recontextualizing Brendan Fraser's career to me and understanding kind of who he is. I came into this being oh, it's got to be Gods and Monsters, and then I watched Gods and Monsters. I was he's good in it, but he's not the highlight.
Right.
And so I think for me, it's got to be 1999's The Mummy. And I think it's because what he's doing in The Mummy is he's so confident, he's so charming, but he's also really pushing into those comedy areas.
Yeah.
Rick is the classic sort of hunky buffoon. He is the himbo.
Yeah.
And the thing that that makes him work is how brave he is. But outside of that bravery, there's not a ton going on up here.
No.
And I think he really leans into that and plays it really well. A lot of people compare this to Indiana Jones. And I think you could say, yeah, the thing that works about Indiana Jones is he's so cool and he's not a tough guy. The very famous scene of there's the guy with the sword who does all the sword tricks and he just pulls out a gun and shoots him because he knows he's never going to win in that fight. And I think that there's a lot of that in Rick O'Connell, but the difference is Rick O'Connell is not book smart by any means.
Right.
And that's Indiana Jones is an archaeologist who knows all this shit. And Rick O'Connell's just kind of I am here for the adventure. I am here to get the girl to make her swoon.
I get your father and I get your mother. And I get him.
but what are you doing here?
Oh, look, I may not be an explorer or an adventurer or a treasure seeker or a gunfighter, Mr. O'Connell, but I am proud of what I am.
And what is that?
I am a librarian. And I am going to kiss you, Mr. O'Connell.
Call me Rick.
I think The Mummy's just so fun. I think it's very stylish. It's maybe the best thing Stephen Sommers has ever made. It's, throwback to the 30s serials, but it also has like, that beautiful lighting, that sweeping nature of it. Yeah, I really dig 1999's The Mummy a lot.
Yeah.
And so much chemistry with him.
Oh my God. Like, seriously, if they had ended up being a couple in real life, I would have been like, yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Mom and dad together, finally.
Yeah, totally. Very good pick, Evan. I think my pick is a little out of left field, but I'm just going to go with it. I really, really, really like and have to give it to 1992's Encino Man.
Good choice.
Yeah, I don't think that's weird.
I think, that's
a lot of acting.
He has maybe 6 lines. He is just giving the most, though. And again, I think the thing that I love about him, I think that sets him apart from Chris Pratt in that whole, genre of actor, is he emotes so well in his face, and he has a lot going on in his eyes. I truly think for all of what we talked about and objectifying his body, a lot for me is what is going on, in his mouth and his eyes and his massive forehead, and it's all just he's so physical, and he's able to just deliver so much. I think the performance is just true, and it's him next to Pauly Shore who's doing the most and being annoying or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine. I mean, it's funny you mentioning Jim Carrey, because it is in that realm, but I feel like sometimes Jim Carrey goes so far, he loses the humanity.
Sometimes.
Okay, Sam has something to say. But I think there's a lot of humanity still in this, even though it's to what you're saying. He's the fish out of water, this is the ultimate fish out of water movie, and it firmly establishes his strength in being the odd man out. I mean, Blast of the Past is this movie, it's the fish out of water. And
I mean, I would even say in The Mummy, he's a fish out of water, because even though he's the guy, the action adventure guy, he's not the let's dig up a tomb and fight a supernatural beast.
Right.
He's like, I'd like to leave, please.
Yeah. He literally spends 90% of The Mummy being like, I would like to leave.
Yeah. Encino Man is such a good choice. And the scene where they're cleaning him and giving him a bath, and it's I'm too sexy. I know that's burned in my memory as a kid. Just watching that scene and cracking up. It's just, and how all the girls are obsessed with him.
Yeah, for no reason. My favorite bit in that movie, one of the few times he has dialogue, is when Sean Astin's trying to give him his name.
Right.
And he keeps just hitting Sean Astin and saying his own name back to him.
Link. No. You're Link. I'm Dave. Dave. No. Dave. Yes.
Real quick, is there anything else that you saw that you particularly liked?
Well, Gods and Monsters, I think, none of us chose it, but is an incredible movie, and he's great in it. But like you said, it is the Ian McKellen show.
Yeah, that's the thing, is he's so good in it, but it's Ian McKellen, just it's hard to watch anybody else because he's just stealing the show.
I put George of the Jungle up there because I don't think anyone else could do that.
Yep.
I can't picture, I mean, could you see fucking Mark Wahlberg in that role?
That's sadly who it would have been. If it wasn't him, it would have been Mark Wahlberg, and what a terrible movie that would have been, right?
Right.
I think Encino, Airheads, and George's Jungle are the slapstick trifecta of his career. That to that point, like it only could be him. And it's so good. But okay, now let's do our mixed reviews.
So my 1 star was 2007's The Air I Breathe.
My 1-star review was 2006's Journey to the End of the Night.
My 1-star review was 1996's Mrs. Winterbourne.
My 5-star review was 1999's Blast from the Past.
My 5-star review was also from 1999, The Mummy.
And my 5-star review was 1992's Encino Man. All right, let's get into our fast forward.
So we kind of hinted at it earlier, but he now is booked and blessed. And you did mention it's the Renaissance. Like, it truly is. He's working with the directors now. He's already shot both of these films, but he's starring in Darren Aronofsky's The Whale. He's also in Martin Scorsese's Killer of the Flower Moon. And he's currently, and I think they maybe just wrapped, playing Firefly in the upcoming Batgirl movie for HBO Max.
Yeah,
so
that should be fun.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, because, you know, as I mentioned before, I was like, ugh, not a good villain. But like Firefly is like a different creature. It's like a man who's like a pyromaniac, and who knows what sort of background they're going to give him. But I think that'll be an interesting thing to see, and cool to see him get, you know, a little bit of that superhero money, because he kind of, besides The Mummy, which is not superhero, kind of never got into that game.
Right.
I ended up renting about $40 worth of movies.
Wow.
Because I just hoped that maybe he'd see. So I was just
Samantha's
like,
I'm the #1 fan.
I mean, if I can help pay for some like horse food, or anything he needs, I want to support and I want to be here. And this is very Gavin of me, but I want to see him on Broadway.
Yeah. I don't know if either of you saw No Sudden Move from last year.
Yeah.
He's very good in that, and that's like a very character piece. And I think that's where, you know, that's sort of what I'm happy to see him do that now. I'm happy to see him like get to be this thing where now he gets to play, and now he doesn't have to be the hot guy and doesn't have to worry about that element of it. I will say, like, I'm a little bit, so Aronofsky, his film The Whale coming up, I'm a little bit nervous about what
Oh, I'm terrified.
It's about, I mean, the log line is, it's a 600-pound man who's trying to reconnect with his 17-year-old daughter. The two grew apart after he abandoned his family for his gay lover who died. Apparently, this man has become 600 pounds out of pain and guilt. I don't like that the movie's called The Fucking Whale and it's about a 600-pound man. Like, that already to me is red fucking flags. But also, again, this is Aronofsky, so it could be fucking like an actual whale. Like, you never fucking know with this fucking guy. I think me and Gavin have been pretty vocal about Mother. So
we almost destroyed a whole other podcast with
it. So we'll see. That is very much in line to what we're talking about, though, and like clearly this is not about his body, or maybe it is, but in a very different way. I'm most excited for Batgirl, to be clear, just because like it's going to be fun, it's going to be silly, it's going to be popcorn, and it's a return to him doing the popcorn stuff, which I think he's really good at. I think like this new era of him doing stuff like No Sudden Move is still kind of like murky waters. We'll see how it turns out, but I'm excited to like see how it comes out. I'm nervous. I'm nervous about it, especially because it's coming out because isn't The Whale like opening like this year?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Killers of the Flower Moon's also, to my knowledge, supposed to be this year or very early next year. So, like,
he's coming for his Oscar.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, so we're all feeling a little nervous.
We're nervous for the future, but hopeful. Okay.
Right.
I do want to ask, since you brought Brendan to us, and I think this has, for the most part, been fun. And like you said at the beginning, there have been stinkers and things that I wish I could take back of having seen. But has your opinion changed of him at all?
I love him more. Like,
nice.
I thought I like cared about him. Well, going into this.
There's that really great recent interview where he like teared up hearing how much people support him. So like,
he tipped his hat and said, "Aw shucks."
Yeah.
So sweet.
I will say my opinion changed, and not in a negative way, but like he's not who I thought he was in terms of being an actor. Like I do think he's a better character. Like I thought he was just like hot guy actor.
Right.
And I think he's a better character actor than he's been allowed to play for a lot of the movies, because he spent, like 2/3 of his life being abs.
Right. And I think like if there is a distinction, and there is a distinction between him and Chris Pratt, or the Chris Pratts of the world, is that he is putting himself more out there. When Brendan Fraser is in these movies, it's not like, oh, look, it's Brendan being Brendan.
Right.
Where like Chris Pratt is just Chris Pratting about being himself. And that's why, they pay him, because they want him to do that specific thing. Like George the Jungle is very different than Gods and Monsters, and they're both really successful performances. And like, even though he doesn't have the complete range, he's got some range,
Yeah.
There are plenty of range. Like we can't ask everything of him.
Right.
But like when the bits land, they land, and like a bad movie, I would say the bad movies he's in aren't because of him being bad. Like they're just fucking bad movies. Like they're poorly written and like they're shit. But he's always down for the game, and like even in the stuff that I fucking really didn't like, and that he probably didn't like Inkheart and stuff like that. Like he is giving his action adventure comedy, all to these movies, which is clear because his body's fucking like been through hell and back. So we're nervous but hopeful. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of interesting. We haven't really had a subject like this where it's like, oh, there's actually a lot on the horizon, and it seems to be like really new and different than what he's been doing before. So
yeah,
onward and forward, girlies.
Well, I think that wraps Brendan Fraser up in a nice tiny little bow and maybe a little loincloth. Before we exit out, Sam, where can we find you online? You are genuinely such a delight. I love when you're on the show, and
I'm gonna come again.
and it's so good to see you. Like, I don't know, you have such a bright face. I don't know, it's wonderful. Where can we find you online? How can people see your stuff?
Well, I'm at Samantha J. Stallard everywhere but Twitter because it's too long. So I'm SJ Stallard on Twitter, and I know I said this last time I was here, but I'm gonna say it again. This show is so fun, but it's so incredibly hard. So just remember every time you listen to an episode, the truly hours, days of work that go into these, because I've done 2 in 2 years, and honey, I gotta wait another year. So
Sam's exhausted.
I'm exhausted.
There's a full day of edit after this too. So yeah. There's
Gavin said, "Oh, you're done." I'm not.
Yeah, never.
But thank you so much, Sam, for coming. You are obviously a delight. Thank you for buying all of our merch. You have more merch than I do, hon.
I literally do.
And speaking of which, please go buy our merch. It's all on Redbubble. Just search for us there. We've got some cute stuff.
We do
have the Camp and Cinema sweatshirt. Kills me.
If you do want to contact us, you can always find us on Twitter at The Mix Reviews.
We're also on Facebook. Just type in The Mix Reviews.
If you want to email us, you can write us little love notes at reviewsmixed@gmail.com. I need to get better at checking that.
We're also on Instagram at _mix_reviews.
And you can listen to us, as you just have in this very long episode, on a plethora of podcast apps. We are on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Amazon, Audible, and if you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please stop by, leave us a 5-star rating. Yes, I said 5 stars. And write us a little review, and we'll read it on the show. And if you don't want us to read it on the show, you don't have to write us a little review, but we will take the 5-star rating.
Yes, and also we're on TikTok, where Gavin is battling teens every day.
They're all on my side now. We have over 1,000 followers very early, and I'm pleased. Pleased to sponge.
Pleased to sponge. With that, thank you guys so much, and we will be back with more guests and other subjects. Thank you so much for listening, and bye.